Hello, my friend. Hey, I have the privilege of speaking with Professor. Well, wait a minute. She's an author now, recently published author. We're going to get into that in just a moment. But Professor Evelyn L. Wilson. And the first question that I have, Professor Wilson, is did I ever take a class under you?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I don't think I did. I don't think I did. So how did we get connected? How did we've managed to stay connected and we've developed a friendship over the years, and how did this connection come about?
After you were hired in, what is it? Not Lafayette, but Pine something.
Pineville. Okay.
Pineville. Okay. After you were hired in Pineville, before you started working, you came to the law center just looking to have somebody to talk to get some idea of what you were getting into and get some pointers and all. And I happened to be in the hall. So he asked me if I had time to talk, and we went and sat and talked. And we talked, and I guess some of what I said made sense. So every time you had an issue, you call me and say, "This is what's going on. Am I crazy, or is this what happens in academia?" And we just continued to talk, starting out with academia, being a professor and dealing with administration and dealing with the colleagues.
You reminded me the other day that when I was a student at the law center, I came pouncing into your office asking you a question. Do you remember that one?
Yes, I do, very much. You were recruiting for your Christians, Williams and Price group that you had, and you came and asked me if I was a Christian. And I told you I was. And he said, well, can you tell me your conversion story? And I said, well, yes. And I said, I'll write it down. And I wrote out 7 pages, which you don't remember. But I thought I gave them to you.
You probably did. You probably did. Yep, I remember that. The Advocates of Christ. All right. So I want to ask you, talk to me about your tenure as a professor at Southern University Law Center. Uh, what was those years like? How did you get into becoming a professor?
When I was in law school, one of my classmates asked me to explain something. And I did. And he said, "Oh, you ought to be a professor." So I think the idea was implanted in my head. When I finished law school, I spent a year at Louisiana Supreme Court with Justice Dixon. And then I went to work for Savio and Weinstein, and he was a boutique firm that handled wills in the States and property, not property, but business transactions, small businesses, not corporations. A very kind of personal law firm that knew its clients for a long period of time. And my boss and I had a situation, and I said to myself, I need to leave this place. I always like to leave before things get bad. When I see the signals, I kind of start talking. So I went to the law school and talked to one of my professors, Joyce Pugh, who said that Southern University was looking for a professor. So I applied and interviewed and started teaching up at Southern.
Yeah, yeah. What, by what year was that? And how long were you?
86.
86. And you were there 10, 15, 20 years? How long were you there?
28.
28 years. 28 years. Wow. Wow. What did you love most about being a professor of law?
The freedom.
Ah,
I enjoyed the freedom to write, the freedom to have conversations with people about things that you might not have time to converse about because you've got due dates for other things. And I enjoy the flexibility. You know, the whole 28 years, I only took 2 sick days, and that was because of flexibility. I could schedule my doctor's appointments around my classes. I took a lot of work home, so I didn't feel like I was cheating the school. I did a lot of work at home. But it was the flexibility and the freedom, the kind of absence of supervision. I had, before I went to law school, we had a number of professional jobs, and I didn't, I hadn't been accustomed to close supervision. I had kind of a end product kind of job. The product was due on Friday, we get it to me on Friday, I'm good. Then people get there and show me. So a law firm wasn't quite as attractive as teaching.
Nothing like that freedom. I mean, I know a little bit about that myself. That's powerful. So you decided at some point you wanted to be an author and publish a book. How did that come about?
This is my third book.
Third book?
Maybe it's my third and a third book. My first book was a history of how the law school came into being. Charles Hatfield had sued for admission into LSU, and because of his lawsuit, Southern Law Center was formed. And so the book talks about, includes chapters on Southern University and LSU, on Charles Hatfield's family and his upbringing. And those things were critical in this most recent book because it introduced me to that population of people of color in St. Francis, Louisiana. My second book was done under a grant from the education section of the Louisiana State Bar Association, and it wrote about the Supreme Court justices that served during Reconstruction. There were three sets of justices as the politics changed, as the Constitution changed, and it gave a biography of each of them and an explanation of the local circumstances that caused their terms to end and the new justices to be selected. And then I did a co-author with two professors from Loyola Law School in New Orleans, a property book, which is still in use at Loyola, and I think one of the professors at Southern is using it. And the property book includes problems and examples of those cases. It has lists of questions for the students to think about. So it's a little different when you took the case book that just lists the cases. That was a lot of it. And then this most recent book is the result of my PhD work. So I retired from Southern University Law Center in 2015 and immediately went to school for history. And it took me quite a while to get my degree. And this book is the result of my dissertation.
So let me get clear. You retired in 2015?
Mhm.
2015. After you retired from the law school in 2015, you started working on a doctorate degree or what? Tell me, what were you working on? What did you go after?
Doctorate degree in history, yes.
A doctorate degree in history. And as a result of that, this publication, A Place to Live in Peace, came about.
Right. So
Okay.
it comes off of the Hatfield experience. He made me acquainted with these three people of color that lived in St. Francisville prior to the Civil War.
Uh-huh.
That's the group of people that I talk about in this book.
Mm-hmm. 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 So tell me about the writing process. How much time did it take, and what was the research like?
So I only used a couple of primary sources. I went up to, let me say, I started, I think, with the West Louisiana Historical Society's collection from Elizabeth Dahl. She's an amateur, she was an amateur historian, and she had collected a lot of information about people of color. So she had some names, she had some basic information, and then, so that's where I started. And then with those names, I could go to the courthouse and look up all of their legal transactions. I could look at the wills, I could look at some of the criminal proceedings that included them, and I could look at all of their property transactions. What I ended up doing at the courthouse was not following the list because her list included people that were on her list in the wills. So what I ended up doing was starting in 1860 and looking at every single transaction that took place in West Louisiana Bay. Those that included a few persons of color would have free man of color or free woman of color in the margin right under the title. So I could identify the transactions in which a free person of color participated. And I kept notes for every single transaction. And then I could identify, this person bought and sold a lot of property. This person only bought one piece of property and lived there for a long time and sold it. And so that became my basic source of information as property records. Could also look at the successions records in the parish. Not everybody opened a succession, but when those records were available, look at those. And then my third source of information was the LSU archives. So I looked at the records that they had for plantation owners. And that's the kind of material that you can find. It's usually papers of people of wealth and standing. So I looked through their records for references to and comments about the people of color, like in through those in the story. And I very much remember that I spent an entire month going through LSU's archives. And that's all I did for me. Just read through those records. And I did find a lot of material, and I found some very interesting things. So I included in the book.
What's your top takeaway from this experience of writing this book, A Place in Peace? What was one of the biggest aha for you?
I think Nellie Wooten was a big aha for me. I had not known that she had accumulated so much wealth. She started out enslaved. In fact, I make a suggestion that she might have been a fancy girl that was sort of held to be available for male visitors when they came to visit. And she was able to convince someone that the child she was carrying belonged to that girl. And so he bought her and had no children with her and eventually freed her. But he also bought her a lot where she would start a restaurant. And so she started with this one restaurant and ended up with 25,000 and land and other equipment. And I think that was the big aha for me, because this is a woman who took charge of her life. She started out, I would say, as a victim. She had no choice. She was enslaved. She was told to do something. She has to do it. But she managed to convince this fellow that this child was hers, and that was her ticket to was his. That was her ticket to freedom. That kind of impressed me that she took charge. And she convinced him probably to buy that lot and allow her to start the rest of it. And then the most curious thing happened. Both he and his brother died within a year of her having lives.
Say that again.
Both the fellow that had bought her the lot and his brother died within a year of purchasing that lot. I just thought that was curious, but I didn't put that in the book. It just struck me as curious.
One of those things make you kind of scratch your head, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
So,
she ended up inheriting what she had got a little bit of money, but her children were left money by these women. And us, since they were minor children, she became the manager of that money. And the restaurant became one of the best in the town.
yeah, yeah. How did you feel when you finished this product project? How did you feel? What did it do for you to be able to turn this book in, your third book, and what did it feel like? How did it impact you?
Well, there was some relief, but also the upcoming challenge. So the relief is finally it's written and I don't have to rewrite, but I know I have to prepare an index and I haven't prepared an index before. And I know that I have to do some marketing and I've never done marketing. So it's not really over. No, it's not really over. I think I will get a final release in June when the book comes out. And then it'll kind of be out of my hands. I'm expecting that some people will review it and they'll either like it or not like it. And that will either increase sales or not. But I think the release will really be coming June when the book is.
So is the book out on pre-order now? I mean, I it's this is a
People,
pre-order. Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mississippi Press, University of Mississippi Press. And you can go online there and look for my name and look for the name of the book, A Place to Live in Peace, pre-order the book.
Absolutely. Yeah, place to live in peace. Free people of color in the West Feliciana Parish, Louisiana. Right. Um, what do you want? How do you want? What would you hope people walk away with when they read this book?
Thank you. That's the only question I've prepared for. So there are three things. The first is there's always the complaint that information about African Americans is not available. So I wanted to make the point that yes, it is. You just have to look for it. You have to go places that you might not expect to go. But the information is available in substantial detail. Because of the lawsuits that I picked up, I know how much people spent for lumber to build their house. The information is available. The second point I wanted to make is that people of color do not just live in the big coastal cities. If you talk to historians about people of color, they immediately think Philadelphia, Charleston, New Orleans, and there were significant populations of people of color in those large cities. But they also existed outside of large cities. And I wanted to make that point that they lived in these rural communities. There weren't many. The community that had 10,000 people held in slavery, about 4,000 whites, and only 100 people. So there weren't a large number, but they were there, and they were able to survive, they were able to support themselves, they were able to contribute and be a part of their communities. Then the third big point is that there was an absence of skin color discrimination
Hmm.
during that 20s to 50s, 1820s to 54, that people interacted as neighbors. You see Black people loaning money to white people, assigning the securities for white people. You see uh, white people buying things that used to belong to Black people. I remember when I was growing up, if you were a Black person, you always put your family pictures down before you tried to sell your house. So people would know that Black people had lived there before. That kind of problem didn't exist. White people got houses from Black people from houses from white people. There were mixed neighborhoods. I mean, the whole neighborhood was mixed. There was no enclave of Blacks and then corner and then neighborhoods in it. There was an absence of skin color segregation. And I think about one of the governors. I always want to say it's George, but I'm not the other one, who said segregation now, segregation then, segregation forever, and that's just simply not true. There was good segregation. I read a story about a woman who lived in the 40s and 50s, and she talked about going to a local grocery store, and the accounts for the white people kept in one book, and the accounts for black people kept in a separate book. That didn't exist in my 18, from the 1850 period, and there was no segregation. They had the same access to credit. It just when the treatment in the courts was fair. Sometimes we win, sometimes we lose, depending on the merits of the case. And so that absence of skin color-based discrimination, I think is the third point I want to make. And in my last chapter, I talk about 1945, and people, the question for the author of these materials is, what does the Negro want? And all he wants is a place to live in peace. And I try to make the point that it existed before, and only because of economic interests and political power interests, it doesn't exist anymore. But it can exist. It's not inherently impossible for us to live in peace.
Economics and politics or political.
We saw that with Trump, didn't we?
That'll do it, won't it?
Race comes right up. We saw it with Bush. Race comes right up as a political factor to gain victory. Not because it's real, but because it works.
Yeah. It plays a big part. Plays a big part. So, what's new? What's next? Talk to me about life. How are you doing now after retirement? Do you want to talk about that?
I think after retirement is the very nicest place to live. You know, I talked about my love of freedom, and you really get to choose how you want to spend your time. So I've made a point of doing some travel. I've made a point of doing some more work. I don't do an awful lot of volunteer work, but I make myself available to people. You know, so there was an organization, Clinton, I went up and read some documents for them. The church had some issues, and I helped them sort it out. I don't have a good video place I go once a week. Soap cans and anything. Just kind of making things available. People do. So continue to the tiny bit of big work, but mostly again for friends. It's in business, but this freedom to decide what to do. And so this book's coming out in June. Nothing I can do about it. Any mistakes in it are there. My next project is working on my grandfather's notes. And so that is pretty well down the line.
Working on what now?
My grandfather's notes.
Your grandfather's notes.
Before he died, he handwrote notes.
Handwritten notes. Okay.
One set of notes is his biography from a young child up until 38, 40. He talks about growing up in a city, in an urban city, Houston, Virginia, dealing with the racism that he had to deal with. And he comes out as the smart kid that got away in all of his stories. So he said, that's the rabbit story. Where rabbit always gets away.
Yeah.
But the instigator of things. So he was a major organizer of a gang fight between the students at the white school and the students at the black school. And when he was called to court, he dragged out what he calls his Lord corduroy outfit that he thought made him look like a girl. I went to court and stammered. He was a stammerer. They didn't have to take that to him. But he went to court stammering in his little girl outfit, and the judge told him to go home.
Hmm.
He was a major instigator plotter, but he
Uh,
got to go home. He's that kind of character throughout the story, is that. But he also talks about his conversion, he talks about his call to the ministry, he talks about his struggles finding the church. And
uh-huh.
then ends with, okay, I have a church and I'm settled. The other set of papers contain what he alleges are stories that he overheard. Now, how he can, at 3 months, remember a story that was told, I don't know, okay? But he's got the stories, and he's got them in dialogue, which makes them a little confusing for a reader. And so so I got the part of the biography together, and I'm in the midst of kind of sorting out these dialogues of stories. And some of which contradict each other, but they're stories. You know? And he's a very good storyteller. He's a speaker. You know, he's a stammerer, but once he gets going, he doesn't stammer.
Uh, sounds
That's
like,
really interesting.
yeah, sounds like an incredible guy. Incredible guy. All right, Professor Wilson, is there anything else that you want to share that I hadn't asked you about? Anything you want to talk about?
No, I just thank you for this opportunity. I always enjoy conversing with you.
Yeah, same here. I mean, we have shared some moments on along the way, and your input, you have refreshed my memory in reference to when I was at the Los at Louisiana College there in Pineville, and but before I made the decision to take on that job, and yeah, your wisdom was spot on, and things worked out well, and until I realized it was time to say adios, you know. So, but yeah, thank you. Your insights have always been sharp. Okay. So, but thank you so much for this time, and I appreciate it, and I'm praying the best for your book. The title of it is A Place to Live in Peace, Free People of Color in West Feliciana Parish, Louisiana. Evelyn L. Wilson. And what's the name of the press or the company that published it?
Um, University Press of Mississippi.
University Press of Mississippi. Awesome.
I don't know if you can see the cover.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, hold it over towards your face right there. Okay, right there. Down a little bit, down just a little bit.
I want
Okay.
you to see the picture.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
So this picture is a 1840 lithograph of the parish. And I
Uh,
guess I should, the point I wanted to make is that it's on the Mississippi River, which is why it was an important port.
uh-huh.
And the buildings that you see are
Uh-huh.
New Sarah, which is down the hill.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you can see the buildings along the ridge.
Yeah, yeah.
That's St. Francis Day, which is up on the hill. And you see to the, I guess this is not the way, this way, right here.
Yeah.
All trees. So you see where the agricultural area is
Yeah.
very, very rural. Not at all urban. And again, the point that the color of the rural areas is well.
I'm looking forward to getting my copy. I've already ordered it. I look forward to getting it. And I I read your first book. I read a great portion of your first book, The Whitfield Story and the History of the Law Schools. Yeah, 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 yeah. So I look forward to the next one. I look forward to the next one. Well, I just want to thank you again for this time and thank you for talking with me and wishing you the best on your granddad's writings as well. So that's something that's high priority, and I'm quite sure you're putting some time in on getting that done.
Yeah, I will. Thank you for the opportunity. Yes,
Thank you. Thank you.